Hello and welcome back. Now going to the conflict that is rising on the eastern flank between the Ocassus alliance and the European Union. The Ocassus alliance, of course, consisting of 4 ethnically and culturally significant countries: Morbius, Pluvius, Grecius, and Serenus. In 1995, all 4 nations formed the Mutual Assurance Treaty, an assuring defense of the Ocassus region, also known as MATADOR. In 1998, they formed the Ocassus Free Trade Agreement to enable economic growth amongst themselves and strengthen their regional influence. They view the expansion of NATO since the Cold War and the growth of the EU as a direct threat to their strategic and economic power. Ideally, they want to stop NATO expansion and weaken the effectiveness of their military power as well as undermine EU solidarity while breaking apart Euro-Atlantic cohesion in political, social, and economic terms. The last 3 years have seen an increasing hostility between Ocassus countries and Europe, and MATADOR forces have held increasingly large military exercises along the NATO border, increasing and causing NATO to increase their own military show of strength demonstrations. Increasing regional hostility has caused political dissatisfaction amongst most of Europe, resulting in increased nationalism and political divisiveness. For example, in September of 2023, there was a massive protest in Plumius' capital of Agregatel by Plumians who claimed the recent election had been rigged in favor of President Plesenko. Government forces under the direction of President Plesenko aggressively cracked down on protesters, injuring many and arresting leaders of the opposition. Following this crackdown, many opposition leaders who had escaped and fled to Pluvius and found refuge in Romania. Plesenko would later accuse Romania of sheltering Plumius criminals, and as such actions represent interference with Plumius international affairs, it promises Romania that there will be consequences for them harboring criminals. In August of 2023, oil reserves were found in the northwest part of the Black Sea. This is currently considered a godsend for the Pluvius government, as these reserves will help their economic standing. The location and access to this oil reserve has sparked an international dispute, with these borders featuring Romania, OTSO, and Plumius. An economic exclusion zone has been established to exploit the find equally amongst these nations, but Pluvius officials state that the EEZ is unfavorably favoring Romania. The PLU has employed diplomatic campaigns, and they are painting Romania as an expansionist state and threat to international order. Romania requests that the ICJ has settled this dispute, and meaning that the waters of the Black Sea are currently contested along the coast of 3 nations. Pluvius has redoubled their efforts to gain more control of the Black Sea, including Ocassus nations, and have put out information campaigns to verify their claim to the Black Sea reserves. In December 2024, Ocassus 24 was announced to be a major military exercise conducted by members of the MATADOR Treaty and was to take place between February and April of 2024. The main objective of the exercise will be to test their ability to rapidly deploy forces westward and to defend against a potential NATO threat to Pluvius and Grecius, and to exercise MATADOR naval and marine forces in the Baltic and Black Sea. On September 5th, Murinus Naval Infantry Brigades deployed to Plumius under the guise of conducting combined training operations with the 6th and 5th Combined Armed Armies. NATO satellite imagery have picked up significant mobilization of forces inside Pluvius and the movement of division-side formations, and social media activity has picked up that families of Pluvius soldiers reveal that they are preparing for an extended separation from their loved ones. On December 2024, Plumius and Grecius have conducted offensive operations seizing neutral territory inside of OTSO. This has been seen by the world as an act of invasion and war. In response to the MATADOR invasion, on January 2nd, NATO invoked Article 5 and agreed to deploy defensive forces to the NATO member state of Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, Romania, and Moldova to deter further aggression by the MATADOR forces. The U.S. 5th Corps will deploy to Slovakia and Hungary. The 30th Med Brigade will establish operations out of Papa Air Base, Budapest, while the 519th Hospital Center will command 2 geographical field hospitals from Papa Air Base, and finally, the 421 MMB will command various echelons of medical support from Bratslava. Now joining us, Victory Medic Analyst and also Major Kroll of the 5th Corps.
Thanks, Sally. Appreciate that. Again here, Mr. Rodriguez with the VMN Network, Military News Analysis, here with Major Kroll, the 5th Corps spokesperson and representative. Major Kroll, as you know, the invasion of OTSO has brought a lot of international attention to the situation. What do you think is the intentions of the Ocassus Alliance, and what do we see for the future?
Mr. Rodriguez, thanks for having me. As we look at what we know now, what we are seeing on the battlefield, we know that the Ocassus Alliance is currently bogged down in their operations. However, if we look at this strategically with open source analysts and documentation and satellite imagery, we know that they have a strategic interest in trying to divide our forces, disrupt our line of communications, and disrupt our supply lines to continue our operations.
No, thank you for that input. And of course, our audience is also probably keen to the fact that we've seen a buildup of U.S. and coalition and NATO forces coming into theater in order to support this effort, defend this effort. Where do you think we stand in terms of readiness and our ability to support and protect our NATO partners and allies?
Over the last few years, through the Defender Europe exercises, we've been able to train with our NATO allies and partners. This has heightened our interoperability and joint utilization of forces. And we've seen this expansion where now we can work together better and more effectively than ever before. So in the current situation, at no other time in the history of NATO have we been able to stand together, unified against a threat and protect Western societies and democracies.
No, thank you for that, and we appreciate your input. Back over to you, Sally.
The world now waits as NATO forces go to the conflict zone. We at Victory Medic Network hope to see a peaceful resolution of this conflict, and we will keep you updated with more information to come from the Eastern Front.